This is a Pele Media podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to Goonies Minute. Goonies Minute is the fan podcast where we overanalyze and scrutinize and explore the 1985 classic Goonies minute by minute. I am your host, Brady.
This is Chris.
And today we are going to be delving into minute number 5. Well, if you're ready, let's go ahead and get into the minute. In the previous minute, we saw the Fratellis outrun the police. At minute 5, we find ourselves in the suburbs of Astoria. At minute 5 and 15 seconds, we see the Walsh household with someone leaning out of the upstairs window. At 5 minutes and 26 seconds, our lead character, Mikey, is looking out through a telescope. He leans back inside and says, "Bummer." At 5 minutes and 30 seconds, Mikey begins to explain about how he can't wait to move. He retracts his statement by saying he was just trying to dictate himself. At 5 minutes and 49 seconds, Mikey's older brother, Brand, corrects him by saying, "That's delude yourself, dummy." Mikey responds with, "That's what I said." At 5 minutes and 55 seconds, Mikey walks over and jumps on top of Brand's bench press, forcing it down on him. And thus ends minute 5 of the Goonies.
All right, one of the things that when watching the movie over, and I've seen this movie so many times, but did not notice it until I watched it even closer, I guess about a week ago, is you see the Fratelli's Jeep like make a right turn down a street, and as you are panning over to Mikey's house.
Yeah.
And I never noticed, but that's them. Hey, they've gotten away.
They've gotten away.
They're taking a right and going down the street. It's really interesting. I never noticed it before.
It's such a cool little touch. You know, we're done with our chase. We're done with the opening credits, and we're just showing Astoria, up here from the view of the household, and camera's panning up over to the house, and there they go, right down on the street, just very subtly.
And they pan over, and you see Mikey standing on the balcony, or not on the balcony, looking out of his room with the telescope.
The telescope, which I think is an interesting image because, whenever you think of a pirate or a captain on a pirate ship, he's always got his little telescope and he's looking out, observing everything.
Right.
I think that's a neat touch that we see Mikey, who's our hero, who is a pirate himself, and that's being subtly established up front. It's him on the front of his ship with his telescope, just kind of surveying what's to come. But so, do you have something?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once you get to his room, it's interesting looking at the different things in there.
Yeah.
But one of the focal points in the room is that skull on his bedpost.
There you go.
And there's a couple times during the minute, even later on in the minute, when he goes walk over to Brand, who is bench pressing. It's not focused on, meaning that it's blurry. The skull is blurry, but it's still
very prevalent.
They make it a point to be an important part of that shot.
You do see
the skull is important.
Yeah, a lot of either like things that are related to pirate imagery, I guess, or nautical themed. Like there's some wallpaper in their house, or maybe it's the cushioning or something that is
something like that.
Yeah,
it's just a feel.
A feel, and they're very subtly keeping it in your head, because we do not go back to the pirate thing for quite a while. Between the skull and crossbones at the very beginning, the very first thing you see, up until they get to the attic, there's not really anything going on there that's pirate related. So
exactly.
that's a typical Spielberg. Again, I know this is not Steven Spielberg's, he did not direct this film, but that's such a classic touch of his is to have something like that to kind of keep you informed as to where you are.
Or you subtly keep, or it's in the back of your head, even if you're not thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's there, and it'll come out at the appropriate time.
At the appropriate time. And it's interesting because, it's this like image, a classic pirate image that's right there, but there is something more to it than that. And that's what I'm going to spend most of my time on this episode talking about. But before I get into this topic that I really want to focus on, we see a couple other neat little things around his room. We see a Prince poster. There's a gas mask randomly hanging on the wall, which is neat. And REO Speedwagon's Wherever You're Going is playing. And also he picks up an issue of a magazine, and it's Mad Magazine issue 227 from December 1981. And that's what he's reading whenever he walks over to Brent, who is played by Josh Brolin. This was Josh Brolin's first movie. Josh Brolin, who, of course, we all know now is Oscar-nominated actor from Milk and No Country for Old Men and Sicario more recently. And I really believe their relationship as brothers. You know, it's an easy relationship to believe because these are both very good actors. Josh Brolin has just been, top of his form since the beginning, since he started here in Goonies. And I know you're an only child. I grew up with 3 other brothers, so we're all very close. So to see these two to be playing brothers is believable. It's something I could definitely identify with.
It's really an amazing. It fits well. It's like they really are brothers. They do that good of a job with it.
And Josh Brolin is playing a good older sibling here too, someone who's definitely a caretaker of Mikey, his younger brother. And so many brother relationships in movies, it's always like the older brothers, shut up, man, get away from me, stop hanging out with me and everything. And you really get the sense of like parental care that's coming from Bryant.
Exactly, because it looks like both parents work.
It's definitely made clear that the parents are busy, they're not around everything, and that Mikey probably lacks that presence in his life. And so I really get, even when he's being kind of a playful like bully to him and everything, you definitely still you feel the love.
One of the address, in talking about the house where they live at, is 368 38th Street, and looking at this is pretty interesting. But since 2001, a woman by the name of Sandy has lived in this house. And it drives her crazy because many people each year will come by, and instead of just driving by to look at it, they'll actually come knock on the door and they want to go look inside of the house, and it's gotten to the point where she just can't take it anymore. And this is Astoria of Oregon, that is only 9,500 people, so this is a little quiet town. And it's a White House on a hill, and because of this 1985 movie, it's just become amazing.
And I've heard that the White House from Breaking Bad, Walter White's house, has people going to it like all the time. And I think the homeowners, if I understand correctly, they're pretty tolerant of it. They don't mind. But it's funny to be able to see stuff like, okay, on Ghostbusters Minute, we talked at length about the firehouse and about how that's a real place that you can go by and look, and it just gives the movie so much more of a realistic feel. And I don't know, man, it kind of puts the movie into your real life, your universe as you live. I have no idea how to word it, but you can walk by that building and say, the Ghostbusters are in there right now.
Right.
I don't know, man. That's just a small example of being able to see real locations, movie locations in real life. It's always pretty neat.
Did you know that Kindergarten Cop, Free Willy, and Short Circuit were also filmed in Astoria?
I did not.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, but I'm thinking,
until now.
You know what? I'm thinking back on it, and the thing that's consistently coming to mind is how nasty the weather is. It's like we said constantly throughout the show so far is that landscape, that environment. It just lends itself so well to a mystery film like this. So it's very cool. What else do you have in the house?
Yeah, also the council in Astoria, Oregon has had to erect signs around the town to help out residents. They'll say like private drive, Goonies on foot welcome, and no cars please. There's different places around that they have actually put up signs.
How would you feel about that?
Well, as long as nobody's here's the thing. I could see myself, okay, let's say I move into the house where the Goonies is. It's like everything's cool at first, but it gets to the point where I'm sure it can be annoying, but unfortunately to me that you have to be aware of your surroundings whenever you move in somewhere, and that's just the way it is. Unless you're a multi-millionaire that can erect a fence and have like some of these stars, they have security and things like that. You just have to realize you just know your situation.
Yeah, just know your situation, that it's going to happen.
But then again, I'm not in that situation.
Yeah, so, it's easier for you to say right
but
now.
I can tell you this, I certainly wouldn't want people knocking on my door multiple times a day, but if it happened twice a year, it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
It's all, how much is it?
Yeah.
That's kind of
pretty much.
If my town was known for that, in theory, I think it'd be pretty cool. I know that since they've been filming so many more movies here in Baton Rouge, how cool is it if I go to work downtown? back in 2005, they were filming Dukes of Hazzard. That was a rare thing. And it's like, man, it was such an inconvenience to get to work. Blah, blah, blah. It was cool, but it was inconvenience. And now it's nothing to go downtown, and there not be like the fact that there's a movie filming. It's no big deal. We're used to it now, and now it's as a sense of pride.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where it used to be an annoyance, now we've gotten used to it. So it just depends. I mean, anything that's new, it's a fear of the unknown that people have. It can be a nuisance, but then if you get used to it, there should be a sense of pride to it also. Just depends on what your personality is and
if the movie's any good.
Right, exactly.
Because there's some crap made around here.
Absolutely.
But so if you don't have any more notes on that topic,
not on the house.
I want to get to something that is very difficult to put into words, and that is, welcome to Steven Spielberg's middle class America. If there's one thing that really ties all of these films that people of our generation go back to time and time again, it's his affinity for the world as we knew it growing up. And I'm talking about domestic life in the 70s and 80s that there was some kind of magic to, for lack of a better way of putting it. And it's so strange that that's something so generic and non-fantastical could bring so much excitement. We go to the movies to get away from the typical domestic life, and yet the most consistent thing in all of his early work was domestic life, just sitting around the living room, sitting around the kitchen, just going to work, doing all these things that somehow he made just, so, I don't know, so appealing. It's in the Goonies, it's in Jaws, it's in Close Encounters, it's in E.T., it's in Poltergeist, which I know he just produced, but his stamp is all over it. This whole like household feel to it, just watching the characters, the families do their just normal, everyday, generic things that we do, was really appealing. And that's something that carries over only because he set it up as such a necessary component in what makes us invested in the worlds that he creates and in these characters that we identify with so much. And have so that's so interesting to me that the biggest name in cinema ever, he didn't go to war, he didn't go to space, he didn't go to the ocean, he went to the neighborhood. And that's interesting to me. I don't understand how I can be more invested in watching Elliot and E.T. play around with action figures. You can watch the family in Poltergeist just sitting around their kitchen or whatever. And I can be more interested, more invested in that than I could be some galactic war.
Because it's not predictable when it comes to a movie.
That's a good point.
It's unique when it comes to a movie because that's not what everybody else would have thought to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas he thinks to do that. Everybody, you don't think to go to a neighborhood and make a story about somebody with forklift. I mean, you think of adventures. Yeah. You think of treasure chases, but you don't think of the real reason for the chase for the treasure and why it's important and what it means to so many people involved. You don't think of that. And the same thing with E.T., when you think of aliens, you don't think of them doing the things that we do necessarily, the things that kids do. And it humanizes them. Like with E.T., it humanizes him when he's playing with those action figures. Yeah. It makes us feel like, hey, it could be one of us, even though he doesn't look like one of us. Yeah. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah. So, and that's definitely, that's part of what I'm talking about. It's just so strange. It's one of those things that's so hard to articulate. But that's the charm of all of these movies that were just in that specific period of film, from this like one person, or him and his like select little crew of filmmakers that were very like-minded at the time. How was that so appealing? It's interesting to me. But we'll probably come back to that as we move along through this movie, and it's something that definitely interests me. So I hope people out there understand what the hell I'm rambling on about. But as far as minute 5 is concerned, that is all I got. What about you?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I was looking a little bit more about the house. There's varying opinions of how nice the private owner is. Some people have said, it's definitely better to go by on a bike. They don't want cars driving by. Some people have said they'll call the police if you walk by. Some people have said that they don't mind if you take pictures from the road. So there's different opinions on that.
Yeah.
But it is a private owner, and the only thing that's been said is that the woman is not crazy about the amount of people that are interested in it.
Yeah.
So, but as far as the access level of it, it's varied. So that's really all I have about the house. But it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
There's still people that try to go there to see it.
To this day.
To this day. But
and go ahead.
no, I was saying that's all I have as far as a minute's concerned.
Yeah. So speaking of Jaws, just a minute ago, and the household element, the Brody house in Jaws has been like torn down and built over by another house. I mean, but the film that created the summer blockbuster, and the lead character's like place is not there anymore. So somebody actually had the nerve to like tear it down and build up their own place. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't understand that. And,
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, real estate's expensive.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not homeowners. So.
But it seems like they could make a lot of money. It's like, you know what? I'll live in my car,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to buy this piece of land and I'm going to charge people to go see it, or I'll build a
Yeah.
house somewhere else after that.
Seriously. Well, on that note, that is it for, what are we on? Minute number 5. I am Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we're here to remind you that Goonies never say die. Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram at GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at patreon.com/PeleMedia. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/PeleMedia and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/PeleMedia.